We talk a lot about boundaries and burnout, but what if the self-care we celebrate so much is quietly turning into something else? What if it's making us forget what we owe each other? When does self-care become selfishness? And are we even thinking about that question the right way? This past Sunday, I wasn't in the mood to do anything. Personally, Saturday started off, well then, progressively went downhill fast. One of my long-form videos had really bad video quality, so I had to scrap it as well as a few related shorts videos. Then I found out the Airbnb I booked for next month wasn't private. It had a shared living room and kitchen, so what I hoped would be a quiet respite from Tirana's noise started to feel more like a burden than a break. Remember that, guys. Always read the fine print. Then, out of the blue, some guy I didn't even know decided to insult my teeth on social media. Honestly, it bothered me more than I want to admit. Then I read the news out of Minnesota. I was moribund and grief-stricken after that, but I had promised to do something with my only friend here on Sunday, so I went out to meet him and his mother for brunch. Of course, my mood was already bad, and then I got lost watching Google Maps show that I was getting farther and farther away from my destination. Most of the streets here in Tirana don't have street signs. I'd had enough. I told my friend I was going home. I felt bad afterward about canceling, but I had hit my limit and didn't feel like I could expend any more energy. Was I being selfish? Yes. But was I being too selfish? Considering the grief I felt for what was happening in America and the mourning I felt for what my country was turning into. At which point does self-care get in the way of our responsibilities to others? When I got back home, I created my video, The Invisible Collapse Nobody Sees Coming. The old rules are washing away. So you know where my mind was when I was creating that. That video talked about the feeling when you wake up and realize something subtle has changed. The law still exists, the institutions still exist, but they don't feel binding in the same way. Trust starts leaking out of daily life like air from a cracked vessel, and people quietly try to adjust. In the rest of the video, I discuss what's going on today and what it must have felt like in ancient Rome, before the Republic fell, before the Empire fell, and how people probably felt about the changes they saw every day. That brings me to this deeper question. Are we too selfish, or is our concept of selfishness broken? The lens of moral philosophy, particularly contractualism, offers a way into this question. This isn't just psychology or self-help. There is a moral lens that philosophers use to think about this. Contractualism, popularized by philosophers like T.M. Scanlon, suggests that morality is about principles that no one could reasonably reject. It asks, could everyone in principle agree to this behavior or expectation, assuming they were equally situated? If you ever watched the TV show The Good Place, you might remember Scanlon's book, What We Owe to Each Other. It was a common theme in the series. When I think about bailing on brunch with my friend, the contractualist lens asks, could my friend reasonably reject my choice to stay home? Could someone in his position say, no, you should have shown up, even knowing how I was feeling? That's where nuance enters. If he knew the full scope of my grief, the stress, the insults, the mounting frustrations, maybe he would understand. Maybe the principle of emotional sustainability would be something we could all endorse. In that light, self-care isn't selfish. It's a way to preserve the very capacities that allow us to be moral agents at all. Unlike utilitarianism, which asks us to maximize outcomes, or deontology, which focuses on rules, contractualism begins from the standpoint of mutual respect. It doesn't ask, what's best for the most people? It asks, what could no one reasonably reject? But then there's the other side. If everyone withdrew from social obligations the moment they felt overwhelmed, how could community endure? If everyone put their own pain first, how would we ever learn to bear each other's burdens? That's the ethical tension at the heart of modern life. When is self-care a form of self-respect? And when does it become self-isolation? When does it protect our ability to contribute? And when does it undermine the social fabric we depend on? I did apologize at the time and again after. I just didn't feel like I had anything left to give. I thought I could muster through, but after getting lost, it felt like too much. Is it worth performing and putting on a good face when all you want to do is cry inside? I don't have an answer, but I think the contractualist view offers a more compassionate frame than the binary of selfish or selfless. It asks us to think not in terms of absolute obligation, but mutual reasonableness. It invites us to consider what others could reasonably expect of us, not just what we feel, but what they might feel too. And it invites us to ask what principles we could all live under without collapse. So maybe the real question isn't, am I selfish? It's, could even those I disappointed reasonably understand why I chose what I did?